Mrs. Ziv, I would want to remind you that a little bit of a colloquial history here, which means a lot to the mentality of people watching you, watching both of us tonight. In the audiences of the public in Kosovo and Bosnia, we still remember a very, very famous historical saying of Vučić during the war, who said, "For every Serb, meaning Christian, killed, we will kill 100 Muslims." That's why the deaths of Muslims generally are seen as much more easier to spend than the deaths of non-Muslims.
Please do not insinuate in any way that this is what we're doing, because this is so far from reality. I have to tell you that we are doing everything possible in order to not hurt civilians and not hurt innocent people. But the reality on the ground is very, very complicated and very, very difficult. And I think what should be done is actually to rid Gaza of Hamas. That is the right thing to do. Once Gaza is ridden of Hamas, then the area of the Gaza Strip that could be developed like Singapore or Taiwan will maybe be able to finally flourish. But they are under a terror organization since 2007. And the fact that this terror organization has time and time again challenged us, but this time opened complete war on us, is something that unfortunately has ramifications on civilians. And as I said before, we're very sorry for every civilian that is hurt. That is not our way.
I'm not pretending, and neither is anybody pretending we know how it feels like to have 200 families, beyond 200 families with hostages still in Gaza, 250. And we will speak to one of these families next week. But nevertheless, isn't it clear to you, because for us it's not that much of a rocket science, that by creating this many casualties, by chasing Hamas to this cost, to having this much cost in civilian life, you are creating new generations of little Hamases. The people, the children who see the deaths of their families will vouch for being Israelis' enemies of the future. Isn't it obvious to you?
You know something? You could have said the same also for Israelis, okay? That the people, the tens of thousands of people who have been affected directly by this heinous terror attack on Israel could turn out to be little terrorists that maybe would fight the Palestinians. But this is not our way. These are not our values. We are a country of values that value democracy, that value freedom, that value peace. And these wars are actually put upon us, not something that we choose. I have to tell you that just before this terrorist attack, Israel was working very hard in order to improve the economic situation in Gaza. 18,000 Gazans entered Israel every day in order to work, to bring money to their homes and to be able to develop their economy and their welfare. In addition to other projects that we were working with the international community in order to develop for Gaza Strip. So I think, you know, it's kind of a choice. If you want to educate your children to be terrorists, or you want to educate your children to be law-abiding, peaceful citizens. And, you know, a people like the Jews who have gone through the Holocaust, in which 6 million of our people have been annihilated, we could have in potential, according to your words, become a land of terrorists. But that's exactly the opposite of what happened. And Israel is one of the countries that has the best contribution to the world in science, in health, in technology, in communications, in whatever, in agriculture, in water management. We go in the exact opposite way.
Nobody is disputing that.
Decide that their way is the way of terror.
Nobody is disputing that, because without the contribution of Jewish people around the world, we'd have less culture and less invention. I agree on that, but that is not the topic of today's conversation. That's why, because of your the contribution to civilization, the world is rather shocked, or let's say we are, how in 4 weeks, let me give you another figure. 36 journalists have been killed in 4 weeks, and only about 50 to 60 journalists have been killed in Ukraine in 2 years. So your theory that Israel is doing everything possible to have as little casualties as possible is not even true regarding the deaths of journalists. 36 journalists, including one Palestinian journalist with all his family, died today. How do you justify this? These are figures from the Committee for Protection of Journalists. These are not figures from Palestinian Authority.
Look, this war is a very difficult war. The fact that Hamas has created an underground city, an underground country, under the buildings and roads and so on, is a fact. And if you want to hurt the Hamas, then unfortunately there is damage that is done around. And I'm very sorry for any journalist who has paid for in his life for being able to report to the world. But the fact is that Hamas has dug so deep into the Gaza Strip that fighting Hamas and actually dismantling their abilities to continue and fight are very, very difficult. It's a slow process. It's a difficult process. Unfortunately, we're paying a very big price in casualties on our side for this fight. It would have been much better if this was a peaceful entity that would look to develop the Gaza Strip, and not an entity that only is worried about and has its ideology for hatred, for massacres of Jews anywhere in the world, all over the world. They're the new Nazis, they're the new and worse ISIS, and the free world should work together, just like with ISIS, in order to annihilate this threat from the world. Because, you know, today it's in Gaza and tomorrow it'll be in Europe.